and it's been almost 48 hours now since anybody was pulled alive from the rubble. So hope, I'm afraid, diminishing. Problems too, though, for this city on a wider scale, going right out from the centre of Christchurch. There's talk that the whole commercial centre of Christchurch will have to be almost literally moved. Obviously the buildings will stay where they are, but all the businesses, all the people who work in those will have to relocate probably for some months, because that is the extent of the damage in the city centre. Meanwhile, trying to restore power and water to the city, incredibly tricky. In the last hour there was a briefing by the electricity company. They said all 4 of their mega cables to one town, the town of Brighton, were badly damaged in this earthquake. They've given up trying to repair those cables underground or replace them. Instead, they've got to put up a 4-kilometre long overhead wire to that town. That would normally take 8 weeks. They're trying to do that in 1 week. That's just a small example of the sorts of logistical headaches that the authorities have here, as well as looking still for more survivors. Let's hope there still are some.
All right, Andrew, thank you very much for that. So that's in New Zealand. Back to Libya now, where foreign journalists are trickling into the country, but social media sites have really helped fill the information vacuum so far. And Emike Umulu is monitoring those and is at our web desk with more. Emike.
Yes, Doreen. Well, I actually have an update of some of the lines we were getting from Twitter about 20 hours ago. It highlights why we can't dismiss citizen journalism in a scenario like this one. But that's after we look at a few videos. The first one sent into AlJazeera by a viewer. It's said to be filmed in the town of Misrata, which we've been hearing a lot about in the last few hours. Fatima is 8 years old, lying injured in Misrata's central hospital, we're told. She says she was shot in the leg in front of her house, which is in the Grat area. We've heard that fighting is taking place between pro and anti-government groups around or in the town. This video was uploaded within hours of those reports. Is she a victim of that violence? It's hard to tell, but piece that together with this next one, and the picture being painted is that there is a battle for the town ongoing. Government opponents claim to have taken over central Misrata about a day ago, and this new video claims to show members of that camp taking over the airport. They're shouting, "God is great." Pictures also purporting to show a makeshift clinic in AlJazeera, not far from Tripoli. And as we've heard shots, we can hear shots as the injured lie waiting for treatment. So to the update now. Throughout the night, about a day ago, we were hearing that a lot of people on Twitter talking about the fact that pro-government groups were going out, cleaning the streets in preparation for foreign journalists coming in because they were trying to wipe off the evidence. And we've been speaking to somebody who has contacts in Libya, an analyst who says that is the case.
I've been hearing exactly that. In fact, just a few hours ago, I got a couple of phone calls from people in Tripoli or people who have friends and family and people even who work still for government, for public services, all reporting that the regime is preparing for this opening to the external media. In fact, they believe they're orchestrating it. This is their counter response to the media onslaught on them. And they want to reproduce it to serve their goal. Their goal is to hide, conceal any signs, any evidence that any massacres or violations of human rights have taken place.
Much more to come. Back to you, Doreen.
All right, Emike, we look forward to it. Thank you very much for that. Well, much focus has been placed on the response of the United States and the European Union to events that are unfolding in Libya, but other countries are also facing a diplomatic dilemma. And we can go to Daljit Dhaliwal in our America's Broadcast Center in Washington for more on that. Daljit.
Doreen, thanks very much. So let's turn the spotlight on Latin America. Now, this is a part of the world where Libya's government has spent years strengthening relations, mostly done through investments. AlJazeera's Gabriel Elizondo reports from Sao Paulo on the region's divided reaction to Gaddafi's ongoing crackdown against the Libyan people.
Libya and Latin America. A close look shows that for years, Muammar Gaddafi has been quietly cultivating economic and diplomatic relations in Latin America that might now be working to his advantage. Consider Cuba and Nicaragua. Reuters news agency obtained documents that claim to show that Libya gave both countries interest-free loans, Nicaragua as much as $300 million. Now, Nicaraguan leader Daniel Ortega is the only Latin America leader who has spoken out in defense of Gaddafi, saying he is, quote, waging a great battle to defend his nation. And Cuba's Fidel Castro cautioned this week against a rush to judgment against the Libyan leader. Venezuelan President Hugo Chavez has been a frequent visitor to Gaddafi in Libya. Relations have strengthened, and there have reportedly been more than 150 diplomatic and economic accords signed between the two nations in the past few years. The two leaders are so close, there was a rumor started by Western diplomats that Gaddafi had fled to Venezuela earlier this week. The rumor turned out to be false and attracted sharp criticism by Venezuela's foreign minister. And here in Brazil, the relationship with Libya remains complicated. In recent years, Brazil has become a major trading partner with the Middle East and North Africa, $5.8 billion last year alone. And just in Libya, some of Brazil's biggest construction companies have contracts there worth billions more. Now, Brazil has growing international diplomatic influence, but it appears right now they don't want to use it. Brazil's new president, Dilma Rousseff, has said absolutely nothing about what's going on in Libya. But as violence continues in Libya, the presidents of Mexico, El Salvador, and Colombia have all spoken out.
I would like to express my deep sorrow, my indignation, and my sadness for the way the civilians are being massacred, particularly in the case of Libya.
Peru is the only country in Latin America to break all diplomatic ties with Libya, making it the rare exception in a region that otherwise is now playing a delicate diplomatic dance with a Libyan leader they all once seemed so close to. Gabriel Elizondo, Al Jazeera, Sao Paulo.
To other news now from the Americas, the U.S. military in Afghanistan is being accused of using methods common in psychological warfare to manipulate U.S. politicians. NATO's top commander in Afghanistan, General David Petraeus, has called for an investigation. Now, according to Rolling Stone magazine, General William Caldwell illegally used what's referred to as PSYOPs, or psychological operations, to secure more troops and funding for the war effort. The report says that Senators Carl Levin, Jack Reed and John McCain were among those who were targeted during visits to Afghanistan. A spokesperson for Caldwell has denied the allegations. Well, for more on how this incident will impact U.S. efforts in Afghanistan, I spoke a little while ago to John Pike, and he's a military analyst with and director of globalsecurity.org.
Displays an incredible lack of judgment on the part of General Caldwell, basically to be using his propaganda people to brief congressional staff and senators. This leads you to think that he's trying to propagandize them the same way they're propagandizing the Taliban. But you then also have to wonder that if he has had such very bad judgment on this point, what else is his judgment clouded on? What other basic mistakes is he making that we just don't know about
But
yet?
then the interesting thing is that the story doesn't actually go into what would have happened to these senators. So can you give us some examples of what would pass as PSYOPs in this context?
Well, in this context, psychological operations basically passes for